A couple nights ago I was hunting in another tree stand, and just before dark a drone flew over my head, right about treetop level. It flew over my head, went a couple hundred yards away, flew back over my head, went back to where it had started, went a little bit to the north of me, and then flew back over my head again. I don't know what to make of that. I like drones. I've actually thought about getting a drone, but I didn't think that was too cool. We had an incident in the summertime. My wife and I were at the tent, sitting at the campfire, and a drone flew over our head. I never saw it, but they have a very distinctive sound, as you know. And it came over our tent site. It hovered around a little bit, buzzed away, came back. Now there's a lot of pine trees, and I never saw it. So it came back 3 times, and then it left for good. I suspect it's the same person. So how do you deal with that? How do you deal with a drone buzzing over your head? Now, maybe the person just innocently flying around. But that's not cool. It's not cool at all. So how do you deal with it? What do you do? I don't know. Rifle season for deer is upon us. I'm down here at the tent. Gonna spend the night, get up in the morning, head out. Hopefully I'll get lucky and get a deer and put some meat in the freezer. It's been a slow season so far. We don't have any acorns, so the deer are on the feed someplace else. I don't know where. Gotta be someplace because they're not here. My food plots were a failure this year because it was so wet. We'll make the best of it. It's probably around 28 degrees. It's gonna get cold tonight. Got the wood stove going. I'm toasty warm in here. So one of the benefits of having the tent down here is the thermals. In the morning, the wind is coming down the hill, and we're at the very bottom or close to the bottom of our property. And so if I were to come in from the top in the morning, my wind would be blowing right through the property. Where we have the tents set up down here in the bottom is kind of like in a little no man's land. There's the topography forces the deer to move above us. So being in the tent with the thermals moving down the hill and the deer being above us in the morning is perfect. I can get up, not create too much disturbance, head over to the stand, get up in it, sneak up in it. I got a little trail cut right up to it, and slide up in there, and all the deer should be traveling above me. See you in the morning. Good night. It's a nice moonlit morning. I got just a few minutes to get ready and head to the stand, but you're not coming along. So that's what we're doing. You're staying here. See you when I get back. Well, that was an uneventful hunt. Beautiful morning. It's gotten a little windy now, though. I'm back at the tent. We're going to get something to eat and get warmed up and head back out. We'll see how the evening hunt goes. So I've hunted a little bit this last week. This is the first week of rifle season. I haven't hunted or haven't videotaped very much. Mainly because I don't like to videotape when I hunt. It's a nice calm morning, a little bit of snow falling. We got maybe a half inch of snow. Makes it easier to see the deer slipping through this brush. The last couple of years I've been going in there and doing some selective thinning, taking out some of the what I call invasives, the buckthorn, the autumn olive. I do have a trail that runs across the hillside. I cut some little bedding pockets up in there. I shot a buck out of one of those bedding pockets last year, but it took all season. It was during the late muzzleloader season when I got that deer. So I just have to have patience. I know we've got some big bucks running these hillsides. I know they're going to come through eventually. The question is, will I be here when they come through? So we need some meat in the freezer. So eventually I'm going to have to be less picky about the deer I harvest. So at this point, I think the first deer that presents itself will end up in our freezer because it's been pretty slim pickings. We're about to wrap it up. I'm going to head out. We're going to go down to the tent. I'm going to go down there. We're going to start a fire and get the wood stove going. I'm going to get warmed up. Okay, see you down there. You can see how our switchgrass is holding up so far. So when I was a kid, it was my first year hunting, 16 years old, in New York State. You can't hunt with a gun until you're 16. And at that time, it was shotguns only, and all I had was a smoothbore shotgun, not very accurate. We were hunting a property in the southern tier. And boy, it's first year hunting, you're very excited, you know. I'd gone all the way over the back side of the mountain, found a good spot, and I was going to sit there all day if I had to. And I wasn't too far from the border with the neighbor, and there was some shooting down on the neighbors, and a group of deer came running up, and there was a small buck in the group. I shot the buck, just a little spike horn. He fell down, and I was excited. I had a buck, first buck. The deer had died on our property, and when I shot, the deer dropped. In my mind, it was my deer. Well, a neighbor came up, and he insisted he had hit the deer, and it was his deer. So we looked at the blood trail, and the deer had been hit twice, but when I shot, that deer hit the ground. And there was blood, obviously. The neighbor had hit it, but I don't think it was a lethal shot. But anyways, he insisted it was his, and so I reluctantly gave up the deer. It was pretty disappointing, to be honest with you. Young kid, first deer, the neighbor comes and takes it. A week later, I was back home and we were hunting the farm. And I ended up shooting the buck of a lifetime. It was a 14-pointer. Not a very high-scoring buck. It was quite the experience for a young hunter to have shot in a buck like that. You know, as an adult, I look back and think, that guy should have just given me the deer, given that young kid, not me, but the young kid the deer. But he didn't. And so if I was to do it again, or if it was to happen to me, I'd gladly give that deer up. I don't care how big it is, I'd gladly give it up to that young hunter, because I know it'll affect him for the rest of his life. There's karma, there's whatever you want to call it. Things happen. That big deer changed the way I looked at deer hunting for the rest of my life. The little deer that was that I didn't end up possessing changed the way I looked at hunting for the rest of my life. Yeah. I'm gonna start a fire. Oh, I'm gonna kick my boots off. Oh boy. Pretty darn comfortable down here, I'll tell you. Oh. Pretty relaxing.